Thank you, Chair Sanders. Today, the committee considers the nomination of Dr. Monica Bertagnolli to be the next director of the National Institute of Health. And Dr. Bertagnolli, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking on this job and going through this committee, which I know must be stressful, but again, very pleased to have you. You have an incredibly impressive resume, and I say that as a physician who formerly was in academics, but has no resume that compares with yours. And it's reflected by the support that you have from the scientific community. There's no questions regarding scientific qualifications, but there are people that will ask questions regarding your overall ability to lead the NIH in the next phase, and this is what my remaining remarks will be about. Everybody knows the NIH's role in strengthening America's biomedical research and supporting public health, especially during a crisis. Unfortunately, it became a lightning rod for partisan debates during the COVID-19 pandemic, and that eroded the trust between the NIH and the public. First and foremost, you will be tasked to rebuild the relationship with Congress and the public, being a leader that represents the interest of all Americans and not just of the scientific community. This means making the agency more transparent and accountable to Congress while also advancing cutting-edge science, effectively communicating to the American people and rebuilding trust between public health officials and the biomedical research community. The NIH director must also protect and strengthen the valuable public-private partnerships that make up our biomedical research enterprise. And sometimes that public-private partnership is underestimated, but clearly the private and the public partnership has been what has made the United States a leader in innovative drugs. Last month, I issued a request for information from stakeholders on modernizing the NIH, and this will include buy-in from all. I look forward to hearing from you about your vision for the agency and how you shall achieve. Now, during our meeting, we spoke about bioethical issues, including fetal tissue and embryonic stem cell research and the use of hormones and other gender transition interventions on children, like on children. Frankly, at times you avoided getting into specifics, citing a lack of expertise. But as the director, you will have to have this expertise. You will need to be prepared to weigh in on topics that not are in your research specialty, but across the entire enterprise, making the policy decisions that will shape the direction of biomedical research. While you will consult with experts and take input from your institute directors, you're ultimately the person who decides. I point out that this hearing is apparently happening today. It was not going to otherwise. Because of a publicly acknowledged deal the Biden administration cut with Chair Sanders to implement partisan drug pricing policies in exchange for advancing your nomination. Biden administration officials told us in a hearing earlier this year that policies similar to those in the deal that have been reported could risk future partnerships between the government and the private sector. By the way, future partnerships critical to generating the cures important for cancer and Alzheimer's and for the next pandemic. The partnerships that are the foundation of the U.S. biomedical research enterprise, which, by the way, leads the world in developing these cures. It's concerning that the administration would jeopardize the long-term success of this enterprise for the short-term goal of advancing your nomination. Last week, I asked President Biden and Secretary Becerra for a full accounting of any deals cut with members of Congress relative to advancing your nomination. At 5:43 last night, this is kind of the problem. At 5:43 last night, I received basically a form letter that provided no information and intentionally ignored the request it was supposedly responding to. The administration was not forthcoming about any deals with members of Congress, even though some of those details have been reported in the press. Now, senators expected to vote on your confirmation should be aware of any such deal prior to the nomination. That's not you, it's the process. And when we speak about the breakdown of trust, it's like rhetoric, inflammatory rhetoric, which is true, but not related, is driving a process by the administration on something that we should know about, but we're not being told. Another example, in June, Senator Tuberville and I sent the acting NIH director a letter about NIH-funded projects that resulted in the death of 2 adolescents. We didn't get a response to that letter, till September 15th, a week after the Biden administration struck the deal to move your nomination. I believe you when you say that you're committed to transparency and rebuilding the NIH's relationship with Congress. I appreciate that commitment, but I have concerns given the administration's history of failing to respond to congressional oversight requests, particularly from members of this committee who are responsible for that oversight. So rebuilding the NIH's relationship with Congress will require a strong director who can overcome partisan divisions, overcome the administration's deliberate stonewalling of requests from members of this committee for that information pertinent to the work of this committee, and work with both Republicans and Democrats to improve trust in our federal health institutions. That means being open and responsive to this committee, which will directly oversee your work as NIH director if you are confirmed. I look forward to hearing how you shall fulfill these parts of the job and move the NIH forward. I thank you, and with that I yield.